Storytelling is not niche. Taking photos is not niche. So why do photobooks need to be niche? It's just that they're too hard and people haven't identified with a solution.
Somewhere between experimenting with AI and a fundamentally different company, there's a breakthrough. The founders on this show got there faster than most people think possible. This show finds out how. Each week, one founder, one honest story. What broke, what they built, and what their company looks like now. If you're ready to make the breakthrough faster than you thought possible, you're in the right place. This is Breakthrough AI Operators. Here's your host, Roland Sieblink.
Welcome back to Breakthrough AI Operators. This week, I'm so excited to have a guest who barely made it onto the show after huge delays with his travel, and he just prioritized his schedule to be on our podcast today. So I'm super proud. Now, let me see if we can guess who this guest actually is. So today's guest started coding at age 10. He got to Inc.'s 30 under 30 for most promising CEOs under 35, and then he co-founded his company already 20 years ago. That's really rare in the breakthrough AI operator space, right? And that was back when photobook meant fighting with a template, and he's still the CEO, the one who stayed, same chair. That's actual. Now, here's the unusual part. Most AI transformation stories come from 2-year-old startups with no legacy and lots of compute. Today's guest is doing the opposite. He's taking a 20-year-old consumer business, millions of customers, 4 continents, profitable, and rebuilding it end-to-end on generative AI. He launched a feature only last month, that lets you describe a memory in plain English and gets a finished photo book back. He told me he cried reading some of the things that it wrote for his personal photo book. And with that, everyone, meet Andrew Laffoon. He's the CEO and co-founder of Mixbook. Welcome to Breakthrough AI Operators, Andrew.
Thanks, Roland. Glad to be here.
Andrew, let's dive right in. You said something in our prep call that stopped me. Writing is an act of vulnerability, and humans are bad at it. For 20 years, the photo book industry optimized for templates and price and design, and nobody addressed the real blocker. How did you see that real blocker when the whole industry missed it for so long?
Yeah, interestingly, my very first photo book was a book for 2 of my best friends from college. They were
Yeah,
graduating, they're moving back to Singapore, and I had this idea. We always used to get together before friends would leave the area, and we would kind of encourage them. Also make fun of them, all the things, all the friends
you're
get
right.
together, share stories, laugh, cry. So I had this idea, what if we could turn that experience into a book? How cool would that?
Mm-hmm.
So I invited all my friends to send me photos. I got 1 CD of photos, remember 20 years ago, and
Right.
I invited my friends to share some of their encouragement. I didn't really get that much. There was no way to do it online. I tried putting it in the book. You couldn't really put it in. It was very difficult to do. So what we actually did, we printed the book, we brought it to that experience and had everyone write a note, like a yearbook, the oldest way of actually adding your text in a book. Fast forward 20 years, it's still a struggle, even as
Mm-hmm.
far as the tools have progressed, to write meaningful sentiment. Even saying meaningful sentiment is so hard for humans.
Mm-hmm.
But when you can do it, what does it do? It builds connection. It builds relationship. It adds perspective. People see blind spots they didn't even know they had, and
Mm-hmm.
feel loved, and they feel cared for. They feel part of something. So that's been a big part of our passion, is it's storytelling and connection together that actually makes the difference.
Tell me a little bit about how the company's grown over the years. How many people are in your team today? What growth have you seen lately?
Mm. Yeah, we started the company, as it mentioned, 20 years ago, actually
Yeah.
this week, funny enough. So this gets to be our official 20th anniversary podcast. We got to product market fit almost in effectively scrapbooking, right?
Okay.
Our customers were people who actually really, they're the ones who actually want to write the text. They're the ones who want to design the layout,
Mm-hmm.
who want to pour in all the detail. And in fact, they come home after work and they tune out, they get on their computer and they Mixbook for fun. Like,
Wow.
so we built this kind of hobbyist audience,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
a great foundation for a business. But it was hard to cross the chasm from, there are these kind of unique people who are so caring and so particular in what
Mm-hmm.
they do, and they're willing to take the time to develop all the skills to make it the way they want. But most people are not like that. And so we've basically been spending the last 10 years on how do we cross the chasm with this need that everyone feels, but make it accessible for everyone. What we've been on about is, can we actually bring back the ability to create something deeply meaningful where your story is actually there? Right. And I think as we've gotten closer to that, the business has grown, the audience has grown, our ability
Mm-hmm.
to capture people's interest has grown, but photo books basically are still viewed as a very niche product. I don't think they should be, because
Mm-hmm.
storytelling is not niche.
Mm-hmm.
Taking photos is not niche. So why do photo books need to be niche? It's just that they're too hard and people haven't identified with a solution.
So tell me, of course, this is 20 years later, but you just launched like a new AI version of your product. Tell me more about that launch and how it's been showing some initial traction, if you can.
Yeah, so we're 8 days in, and we
Yeah.
launched story mode last week. We talk a lot internally about this is the beginning of the next 20 years. We
Mm-hmm.
finally have the tech to cross the chasm. Thanks to OpenAI, thanks to Claude, thanks to Google, these guys have actually pioneered tech that makes it possible to organize your photos in a way that reflects your intent and to create a book. Honestly, 98% of people could just not make that book on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first ones I did was a book for my wife for Mother's Day. This was
Yeah.
actually an earlier version of the tech. And you still have to pick the photos right now. We don't yet pick the photos for you. That's coming soon. But you pick the photos and then you give it a prompt, right? Make a book for my Mother's Day, walk through different parts of our journey together, walk through things I love about her. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
prompting is still a thing. You need to prompt this thing. This is ChatGPT for your photo books. And the more you prompt, the better it's going to be. And it laid out the whole book and it weaved this narrative on every page. And it did it poetically in a way that
Wow.
for me to write it like that, yeah, I could have probably gone back to ChatGPT for every single page.
Right.
It would have been a pain. So most new users will give a very simple prompt at first, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming this is the same thing with all the LLM interfaces, but they'll say, make a book of my last trip.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, that's just not that useful of a prompt.
Right.
So it will then say, "Okay, tell us more about this trip," right? And, you say, "Oh, we took a trip to Greece. Who was with you on this trip? Okay, here's the people," right? Because once you tell it and the more you tell it, the better. It's still not perfect. It'll get to the point where it thinks it's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
It won't take you to every detail because then people will start to drop off.
Right, right, right. Exactly. Okay, that's very good. And what was the hardest part in developing that tech? Was it trying to tap into those emotions, understanding what information you need and don't need, finding that point where you can cut off because it's good enough, as you just said? What was the hardest in your experience?
Yeah. I think with all products, and AI products are maybe in particular, probably all products, that good to great part is really, really difficult to
Yeah.
navigate because it gets to the point where it's pretty good and
Mm-hmm.
very easily decide, let's just move on to the next thing on our roadmap because we have these crazy exciting things in the future. Let's go do that.
Right, right.
But we recognized there was a spark in this product. And if we could just get it to the wow moment, right? So like my Grease book, by example, or my book for my wife, as I was reading through the narrative, Roland, it actually made me emotional. I started
Yeah.
My wife was just working on our book from our Greece trip, and it was a big milestone for us. There was a lot of personal stuff we've gone through that this was celebrating us moving past. And the way it narrated that was unbelievable. It's just like, how did it know we were thinking that? And even higher than that, it actually recognized feelings and made connections that we ourselves hadn't made, right? That's the whole sentience of feel it there, right? There's this emotional sentience that helps you recognize your own experience differently. And that's crazy to me. Honestly, I didn't know that was going to be possible.
So with that experience, of course, I cannot help but ask the question, how do you now think about this existential question these days? Are AI models conscious? Are they sentient?
This could be a podcast in and of itself. I do not
Right.
conscious. I do not think they're sentient. We could spend a lot of time defining terms. The best person I've ever heard explain this is Andres Karpathy. He's got the way of making it accessible and
Yeah.
understandable. And, I still walking through his first deep dive into how LLMs work. And he's like, it's basically fancy autocomplete. And I think it's beyond that now. When you chain of reasoning, it's beyond fancy autocomplete.
Mhm.
It is less than what a human can do in the sense of it lacks its own will, and its self-awareness is, in my view, a mirage, right? The self-awareness persists as long as the context window. But
Right.
when you're within the context window, it's pretty compelling.
But I wanted to go back a little bit, Andrew, also to what you said about this is a new chapter in the life of Mixbooks, right? You've been at it for a long time, and many of our listeners are newer entrepreneurs, people who still have a big journey ahead of them, hopefully.
Yeah.
How do you think of the chapters in a startup's life?
Yep.
What is a new chapter? When is it time to start one? When is it time to finish one? And what is this metaphor how has this helped you and your team navigate all the challenges you've been facing?
Yeah. That is such a right question. I think the number one thing for a startup is, as a founder, is you, right? If you
Mhm.
stop growing, the company will stop growing. And it
Mhm.
may take a little while, but it will catch up. Like, the company at some point will only grow as fast as you can grow, right? If
Mhm.
you're not self-aware, you're gonna be missing major things that are going on in the company, and you're gonna get
Mhm.
once you get to product market fit, the problems are just so different, and they
Uh-huh.
hit you so fast. We were growing from, what did we do? It was like 80K, then 1,000,000, then 4,000,000, then
Yeah.
15,000,000, then 25,000,000, like boom,
Mhm.
boom, 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 boom. It happened really quick. And of course, that's nothing compared to the way companies grow today with AI. But back in the 2000s, it felt fast to us. And so
Right. Yeah,
there's a lot.
yeah.
How do you keep up? And I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't bring in
Mhm.
mentors at the right time. And on the flip, I thought my exec team, my board was like, you need to hire execs who can tell you what to do. And I took that seriously. That was such bad advice.
Uh-huh.
Such bad advice. Your exec team is not your mentors. That's not right. You need someone objective, third party, who can actually help you for you,
Mhm.
right? You need someone speaking into your life in that way to help you grow. And then you need an exec team who you can lead and who you can trust, but they're not just going to go solve it all. Like, you have to turn.
Right.
There's so many other things that come with it that are not intuitive, especially to an engineer, right? I just didn't understand even the basics. I didn't really play team sports. I didn't know how to get people to work together. Just a skill I didn't
Uh-huh.
have.
Yeah.
And I can be persuasive and I can get people to go in a direction, but if they don't like each other, it just doesn't get that far. And so there was a lot of those things. So then after we got product market fit, we grew really fast. And then there was another chapter of we hit a wall.
Mhm.
And I knew we hit a wall. I just didn't know how to get around the wall.
Right.
And the things I tried didn't really work. So it took us basically 5 years to really get
Mhm.
back to, okay, the growth is actually pretty healthy again. You get stuck at a certain point, and there's
Mhm.
organizational dynamics that make you, primarily it's organizational dynamics, and it's your own um, readiness to grow as a leader and admit where you are and actually say, okay, I do need help. Like, for us, we got stuck, and the way we got unstuck was two things. One,
Mhm.
me actually being real about, I'm burned out and I'm done and I need to actually make a decision. Either I'm going to go take a break and then go big, or let's just sell and be done with the thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
You can't just every year be trying to remake that decision. Every year, are we selling? Are we growing? What are we doing? That's just that tension. You can't live in that. For
Right, right.
Then it was, as soon as I kind of went on a retreat and I made this decision. I want to do this because the mission matters to me. Like, I actually
So
care.
reconnecting with your mission, with your purpose in a way?
Yes, going back to that original vision of connecting people through stories, I believe in that.
Mhm.
So then, but I don't know how to get unstuck. So I went on a 6-month search, reading all the books I could find, meeting all the mentors
Mhm.
I could
Mhm.
find, until I found the one that actually kind of explained why we were stuck. And that basically, we redid the entire culture of the company based on that.
Mhm.
My entire executive team, we actually built for real mission, vision, values. Yeah, we had kind of had it, but if you ask my employees what it was, they wouldn't be able to tell you.
Well, I wanna hone in a little bit on that, if you'll allow me, Andrew, because of course, as you know, we are in the business of helping to scale companies. Typically, have done 10 unicorns from 10, as you say, from 1 to 100 in 3, 4 years now. And I think that that self-awareness, that looking for the solution, that realization and acceptance that you need some help from the outside is so important. I was wondering, like, how did you get into that growth mindset versus the many founders that I see that are like, no, I want to be protective. I don't even want to admit to the outside world that I have any problem. We can solve everything by ourselves, and not realizing that they're kind of stuck in a loop where, no new information is coming in, so no new decision will come out.
Yep. Well, as I mentioned, it did take me time.
Yes.
So I think humility, the word is humility. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not a common word you're throwing around in Silicon Valley. Like, I'm looking for founders who have humility. That's going to be the key to returning my fund. Because humility usually is viewed as like this person's a doormat, they're insecure, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. I don't mean that, right? To me, good humility is you have a high regard of yourself and you have a high regard for others.
Hmm.
When you have that intersection, you end up with a person who actually can be way more self-aware. And in my view, like someone who can only learn on their own and cannot learn from others, their growth rate actually is far less
Hmm.
who can learn from both. Because what can happen is then with that amount of humility, you can be open, you can be curious, you can ask questions. And the interesting part about humility is actually only possible with someone who's not insecure, right? Pride and insecure are two sides of the same coin. So I think as
Hmm.
a beginner, we tend to be afraid of, am I going to fail? Am I going to let my investors down? Am I going to let employees down? Am I going to let myself down? Am I good enough?
Right. And you mentioned in the prep call how you really believe that persistence is one of the most unsung factors in a long-term startup success, right?
100%. And what I see is if you can just stick it out, your luck will eventually come.
Hmm.
It will eventually come, and it's just a matter of time. It might be a long time. So please make sure you're working on something you actually care about, right?
I liked when you said about the chapters that, of course, there's like multiple changes, multiple areas of growth, typically compounding and or reinforcing each other, right? Um, but I do wonder, do they just happen to happen, or are they driven by circumstance, or can you actually engineer like a startup or a culture for like, how do I get breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough? Because I'm always thinking like the only way that a sub 1 million company could grow to 100 million plus is if you have all these compounding breakthroughs. You're never going to get it with just one silver
Yep.
bullet, right?
Yep. Yeah. I think I thought about this wrong earlier on. So what we did, we built this kind of first 5 years, we built Mixbook, right? We had this
Yeah.
scrapbooking thing, a scrapbooking business, basically, right?
Hmm.
Online scrapbooking, but scrapbooking. Customers loved it, super high retention, high LTV, high AOV. We could really acquire easily. And then two things happened. One is there was no app yet on the phone
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
for making photo books. So we said, let's make a new app for making photo books. Two, one of our big competitors was copying our editor and really trying hard to drive us out of business because we were stealing share from them.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, we're going to pivot the whole company and go all in on this, which could actually be fine to do but the theory was we're going to disrupt ourselves before anyone else does, right?
Right. With the mobile app, right? Yeah.
Yep. And then the big mistake we made was launching it under a new brand. And so
Mm,
there were reasons why we wanted to get out of discounting. We wanted to get more press, and our space and our space just doesn't get a lot of press. And so we wanted
right.
to kind of free ourselves from that space narrative.
Yeah.
It worked. We got press. It worked.
Yeah.
We got away from discounting, but actually building two businesses at once is crazy hard. So it didn't.
Hmm.
That was the problem. It was
Right.
additive growth, but with a small amount of resources, additive growth doesn't work well.
And you introduce more complexity, which is your main competitive advantage as a startup, right?
Exactly. So what I've now learned, had I known this earlier on, things would have looked a lot differently for us. I would say like the two biggest breakthrough learnings for me was one is like, how do you actually build culture? Because that really scales well.
Yeah.
And then two, how do you turn the company into a machine that's compounding?
Hmm.
So I went back and reread some classic Jim Collins work, uh,
Yeah.
Good to Great, Built to Last, right? And in Good to Great, they have this idea of the flywheel.
Yeah.
And what is a flywheel, right? He gives the analogy of the flywheel is basically this like giant wheel. And to get it started, spinning is really hard. You have to exert a tremendous amount of energy. But once it's spinning, it's very hard for it to slow down. It still
Right.
requires a lot of energy to speed it up, right? And if you can figure out what your flywheel is
Hmm.
and identify where are the points of leverage, where is the bottleneck on that flywheel at any given time, set up all the metrics so you can manage the business that way, and essentially design the organization around it,
Right. Yeah.
you can start to deliver compounding on a schedule. I'm making it sound a little better than it actually is because it's really a lot of hard work, but that's what we do now and it works.
It almost sounds like you've been in one of my workshops because that's exactly what I do too. And identify the flywheel, identify the handovers, and that's the metrics, right? So that everyone knows what's delivered to the next function, and then just start compounding the effects of having that spin faster and faster.
Clearly should have gone through your accelerator 10 years ago. I would have saved myself a lot of time.
Well,
Wow.
I've gone through my own learning journey since then, so I'm not sure that 10 years ago you would have had the same benefit.
And yeah,
Excellent. But so you do think that ultimately it's possible to engineer more for these kind of breakthroughs, or is it basically always going to be driven by events and crises and like stumbling from one to the other?
well, if you look at, I think big companies are the example that proves you can engineer innovation. There's a lot of good examples of
Hmm.
big companies for a season driving incredible innovation that changes the world. They might not always commercialize it, right? So for us,
Hmm.
story mode actually came out of something we started 5 years ago because we did really well during COVID, made some money. And my philosophy has always been, venture backed companies, it's not like you're issuing distributions, you're putting that
Right.
all back into the growth,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And you're putting that into the mission. How can we actually make this real? And so we said, okay, we have the resources. We basically raised another funding round from our customers
Yeah.
with no dilution. How wonderful is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
If we go back to the original vision, which was not only about photo books, it was something way bigger. And could we actually make that real? And we're like, well, it's going to take everything we have to do that.
Hmm.
We started that 5 years ago. And the first
Wow.
2 years, the technology just wasn't really ready.
Right. Yeah.
And still, the technology is not ready for a lot of the vision, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
So I don't know when it will be ready. So some of that stuff is still, we're cooking a little bit on it. It's in the back burner. But as soon as ChatGPT launched in 2022, front burner happened. It was front burner now for really, can I now use AI to tell stories for the first time? Right. And so how do I give people that pen to make storytelling possible again? And so we had this big initiative. Initially, it was not about photo books at all. But about a year ago, we had a breakthrough and we said, oh my gosh, this could be commercialized right now.
Yeah.
So we spun off a team and it took a year of refining to actually get it to be what you see today. And by the way, I was just with the team the last 2 days and they're like, it still sucks, Andrew. We have so much more we have to do.
Right. Exactly. It's like
Because the
Reid
moment
Hoffman says, right? When you launch it and you're not absolutely embarrassed, then you waited too long, right?
yeah, it just makes me think, comfort is a negative leading indicator always
Yes.
in a
Yeah.
company. It just shouldn't be. Work is not supposed to be comfortable.
Especially not in a startup where you're constantly fighting against the incumbents and against the dominant narrative, right? So I love it. But as the last few questions, always want to hear more about the person behind the startup. And you've been quite open about, some of the personal challenges and things you've gone through in your growth journey. But what were you like as a kid, as a teenager? What kind of predicted that you would be this successful entrepreneur one day?
I'm oldest of 4 kids, raised in the South, small town, North Carolina,
Uh-huh.
and there was not a lot of startups and engineers in that town. And so I was the kid who, anytime something would break in the house, I was trying to fix it. And I
Yeah.
had a decent success rate of fixing broken stuff. But eventually I got bored and I started fixing working things. And that kind of fixing usually resulted in notable flaws post
Right.
post repair. So my dad was like, Andrew, I got to get this kid something so he can fix that and not my VCR.
Right.
So he got me a Commodore 64. I started to learn how to code. I started to build my own software. It's actually, of course, started like with many entrepreneurs and engineers. It started with hacking video games, right? And then my dad basically just kept introducing me, taking me out of that environment to expose me to more tech.
Mhm.
right? So we went to go visit Duke University, and I met an entrepreneur
Yeah.
there who mentored me and taught me and showed me the internet in very early days and
Cool.
what it looks like, gave me a series of books on tape about
Mhm.
entrepreneurship. So there were those like really formative moments. And you could also draw a through line back because I was always doing entrepreneurial things as a kid.
Mhm.
Simple as lemonade stand, but the most classic, which I pretty much spent entire summers doing, was going around on a golf course, collecting golf balls, washing them off, putting them in boxes that we got from the golf. You know, the golfers will take the boxes and just toss them, right? So we just sold repackaged golf balls and sold them at
Excellent.
golf course, and things like that from the very earliest days, right? And I still remember too. I had a manager. I was always working from a young age. I love to work.
Yeah, yeah.
My first job during high school too, I was homeschooled. My parents they're like, this kid needs time to like create stuff.
Mhm.
School was pretty boring for me. And so they homeschooled me. And so like 12th grade, I didn't do any school. I was done already. And so
Wow, okay, yeah.
full time and I was starting a company. And I had this manager who just gave me way too much responsibility. And I loved it. Every time he would give me something, I would take it, I would finish it. I'm like, what's next? And he just kept giving me more. He never held back. And to me,
And
that's
you're so young, you don't really see any risks yet either, right? So,
you
you
don't
know.
know. You don't know. And it's such good preparation for being a founder because
Yeah.
that's what being a founder is. It's just like you just keep getting more and more and more responsibility, and you have to learn how to do it, what to pass on, what to hold on to, right? How to be self-aware about what is now your new top priority. Like that's actually a really good preparation.
Last question, Andrew, before we run out of time. What is the one piece of advice you would give to a younger, newer founder that is still figuring things out? Maybe they're just at their product market fit stage and are thinking, what's next?
Persistence is the thing, right? And persistence starts with you.
Yeah.
And managing your own psyche and your own motivation is really, really important. And
Hmm.
biggest thing is you just cannot do it alone.
Yeah.
So whether that's a co-founder or a spouse or a family member or a close friend, you need somebody in your corner. And whoever that is, not everyone's going to show up the way you think in a startup. For one thing, you're not going to have time to be with them as much as you used to have. And so, but I think
Do you
that
need somebody to just unconditionally back you or to keep you sane or to challenge your perspective? What do you need them for?
you need all of that. You
Okay.
definitely do not need the unconditionally support you. I think persistence is the key. And it's how are you as a founder getting the support you need and recognizing when you get stuck because that's super, super, super important. Being honest about it.
Super. Excellent parting words, and we'll share these with many people in the community. This has been a great interview, Andrew. Thank you so much for showing up so much energy, so much insight. Where can people go who want to learn more about you? And is there any particular artifact you want them to download?
Yeah, I mean, mixbook.com is our website.
Yeah.
And it's a great opportunity. Try our new thing, story mode. Actually, it's only in the app at this time.
Yeah.
So download the Mixbook app, play with it, ChatGPT for your memories. And then for me, I'm on LinkedIn. You can just
Yeah.
Google my name, not too hard to
And
find.
of course, people who know me and don't know Andrew yet, I'm always happy to provide an introduction as well. With that, Andrew, thank you so much, founder and CEO of Mixbook. Tremendous experience to share with our community. So grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for all the listeners, please tune in again next week. We'll have another founder, maybe not quite as amazing as Andrew, but there will be another one, another breakthrough operator on the show next week. Please stay tuned.
That's what a breakthrough actually looks like. One founder, one honest story, every week. Subscribe, leave a review, and share this with a founder you think is ready for it. Find us at baio.midstage.ac. See you in the next episode.